No.
Is this color-coded?
No, not at all. This is whatever my hand picks up first.
I remember we did a lot of when we were on Zoom. Remember the Zoom days?
Okay, we're going to get started. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. That sounded really great, everybody. Everybody was keeping in rhythm with our drummer and our pianist, and that sounded great. So let's all keep that in mind as we're singing heartfully, staying in tune and in rhythm this morning. My name is Louise Windheld. I'm your leader this morning. Michael Heinzman is going to be our Torah reader. Michael. And Lana Schaefer is supposed to be giving the Devar Torah. I saw her on Zoom this morning, so she's awake. So we'll see her. We'll be putting on the talit in a few minutes, so hang in there. And please turn off or silence your cell phone. The Torah portion this week is Korah, and you may remember what happened to him when he didn't follow God's laws. So, had to be there, you know. Okay. We're going to start on page 6 or 124 in the other book. Page 6 or 124. And let's read this alternatively. May the door of this worship space be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to my burden, thanks to express hopes of your church. May the door of this worship space be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity and viruses. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this worship space be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Page 8 or 126. This is a poem by Ruth Bryn. Some of you may be familiar with the poet Ruth Bryn. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services. But I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. Page 10, we're going to sing, remember, keeping in rhythm and in tune. Give the microphone to Gordon for singing. Oh, good idea. Gordon, this is for you.
Manayim shever achim gam yachad hine ma tovu manayim shever achim gam yachad hine ma tov ya la 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 hine ma tov ya la 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 hine ma tovu manayim ya la 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 hine ma tovu manayim shever achim gam yachad hine ma tovu manayim shever achim gam yachad hine ma tovu manayim shever achim gam yachad.
Page 66 or 184. 66 or 184. Ronnie, would you please read, you'll have to come up for this, the top part of page 66. Come on up. Page 66, this part.
Each of us enters this sanctuary with a different need. Some hearts are full of peace and gratitude, overflowing with love and joy. They are eager to confront the day to make the world a better place. They are recovering from illness or have escaped misfortune. We rejoice with them. Are they supposed to read it? No. Some hearts ache with sorrow. Disappointments weigh heavily on them. Families have been broken. Loved ones lie on a bed of pain. Death has taken a cherished loved one. May our presence and caring bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered. Ideals are betrayed and mocked. answers sought in vain. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore our hope and renew our faith.
Thank you, Ronnie. And at the bottom of that page, who does not hunger for friendship, understanding, warmth, and love? Let us lend strength to one another and pray for the welfare of this community. On page 73, we'll wrap ourselves in Talit. Page 73. Eric, would you read this for us, please? Thank you. No, do the reading first.
Whoever wrapped in a talit in one's youth will never forget taking it out of the soft sack, opening the folded talit, spreading it, kissing the border along its length, sometimes embroidered, sometimes embossed. Afterwards, a great sweep over the head like the heavens, like a chuppah, like a parachute. Afterwards, folding it around one's head as if playing hide and seek, and then wrapping the body in it, tight, tight, letting it fold you like a cocoon, and then opening it like the wings for flying. And why are there stripes and not black and white squares, like a chessboard? Because squares are finite, without hope, and stripes come from infinity and go on to infinity, like the runways at the airport, so that the angels may land and take off. When you wrap yourself in a talit, you cannot forget coming out of a swimming pool or the sea and being wrapped in a great towel and casting it over one's head and wrapping it tight, tight, and shivering a little and laughing and blessing.
Thanks, Eric. And now on page 72 or 190, the bottom Hebrew is the blessing that we'll read, first in Hebrew and then in English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvoto, v'tzivonu lehitatef bat tzitzit. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to wrap ourselves in the fringes. Page 74, we're going to sing Ma Tovu.
Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, O Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, O Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Va'ani berov chastecha, avo vetecha, eshtachave el hekol kodshecha, v'yiratecha, ma tovu, ma tovu, o alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Sounding great. Page 81 or 199 is a passage that I take as being very empowering. I can stay the tears of others if I can see myself as diminished by their sorrows. I can hasten time when everyone will be able to rejoice in freedom. And if I can see myself as the companion of those fighting against oppression, I can honor the struggle of people everywhere to gain dignity and deliverance from bondage. When I look at myself in the mirror, who will I see? And on page 85, Dave, would you come up? Page 85 or 203.
I am a Jew because our faith demands no abdication of my mind. I am a Jew because our faith requires all the devotion of my heart. I am a Jew because in every place where the suffering weep, the Jew weeps. I am a Jew because at every time when despair cries out, the Jew hopes. I am a Jew because the words in the Torah are the oldest and the newest. I am a Jew because our promise is the universal promise. I am a Jew because for us, the world is not completed, we are completing it. I am a Jew because humanity is not created, we are creating it. I am a Jew because we place humanity and its unity above all nations and even above our beliefs themselves.
Thank you, Dave. On page 88 or 206, we can all read this together in English. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people, and the study of Torah encompasses them all. Page 107 is an interesting passage that I'm going to ask you, give you a little test about. No, I'm going to ask you to discuss what the meaning of this is. On page 107 or 225, this passage always kind of confuses me a little bit, so after I finish reading it, I'm going to ask for your thoughts about what it might mean. What makes a fire burn is space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight, can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and absence of fuel together that make the fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. We will then, in a minute, rise and open the door that is shut. But before we do that, do you guys have any thoughts about what that passage means? To you, to us? Dave? What we don't see is part of the whole. Okay, Gordon? Oh, Gordon?
God is the space between the logs.
God is the space between the logs. Mimi? God is between the people, is between the betweenness between people. Great, great, yeah.
I see it as maybe not being too overzealous, not putting in too much, and leaving some space for
Not being too zealous, leaving some space for the divine. Ronnie? Okay, let me just repeat that for the folks in Zoom land. The open spaces, all the green, and not building up too many buildings on top of that. What else? parenting.
Not constantly giving your kid advice and trying to guide them and push them and those things, but to give them the air of the space to grow,
Oh.
go into that space.
Okay, so when you're parenting, not telling your kid everything to do or not do or whatever, give them some space to explore their own. Leslie?
Don't feel obligated to dominate the conversation. Leave some space for other people to
Ah.
give their input.
Don't feel obligated to dominate the conversation. Leave some space for other people's input. Mary?
In your own life, you tend to get busy, you have to do this, you're doing a lot of things, and I found lately particularly if I just leave space to go sit on the patio for a minute, or look at the trees, or read, and I need to force myself sometimes to leave those spaces, because it's so healing.
Leave some space in your busy lives to just do some breathing and recover perhaps a little bit. Yeah.
I take exception to the line is fuel in the absence of fuel by saying that everything is fuel, and everything in life contributes to life.
Everything is fuel. Every part of life contributes to the burning of life. Flames. Anybody else? Good. Thank you, guys. That was really great. I'm proud of you. Okay, let's see where we are here. Page 108 or 226, and this is the Baruch. So if you are able, please rise.
Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Lie, 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 lie. Borech hu et Adonai hamevorach Baruch Adonai hamevorach hamevorach leolam va'ed hamevorach hamevorach leolam va'ed.
Please be seated. And on page 110 or 228, let's recite the Yotzer in Hebrew and then in English on page 110. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvarei choshech, osei shalom uvarei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha barakamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chal yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Marabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chachma asita, mal haaretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al ma'orei or she'asita, yefarucha sela, or hadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizke kulanu mehirat loro, Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer ha'ma'orot. Continue. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy, you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness, you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom, you formed them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands, and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai. creator of all heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hama'arot. And on page 111, or 229, in the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous, a promise that your light would become the catalyst, first for order and then for hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have, to cast light into dark waters and draw out justice and truth. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hama'arot. On page 113 or 231, love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded, we saw the inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. We'll turn the page to 114, 115, 232, 233. Rise if you're able for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated. And on page 116 or 234 is the V'ahavta that we will recite together.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levecha u'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'leftecha b'derech u'v'shokbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam Hamezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru vasitem eko mitzvotai vitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim li'olachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Emet. And on On page 117 or 235 is an interesting passage also. If we can hear the words from Sinai, then love will flow from us, and we shall serve all that is holy with all our intellect and all our passion and all our life. If we can serve all that is holy, we shall be doing all that humans can to help the rains to flow, the grasses to be green, the grains to be golden like the sun, and the rivers to be filled with life once more. All the children of God shall eat, and there will be enough. But if we turn from Sinai's words and serve only what is common and profane, making gods of our own comfort or power, then the holiness of life will contract for us. Our world will grow inhospitable. Let us therefore lace these words into our passion and our intellect, and bind them as a sign upon our hands and eyes. Let us write them in mezuzot upon our doors and teach them to our children. Let us honor the generations that came before us, keeping the promise for those yet to be. And on page 122, we will sing together Micha Mocha, page 122 or 240.
Micha mocha balim Adonai, Micha mocha nedar bakodesh, no rat hilot o sefel, no rat hilot o sefel. Hey, yam bye bye bim bam bye, yam bye bye bim bam, yam bye bye bim bam bye, yam bye bye bim bam. Ay, 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 yabba bye bye bim bum. Ay, 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 yabba bye bye bim bum. Shira chadasha, shivchu geulim, l'shimecha asfat hayam. Yachad kulam, hodu v'ilchu v'yamru, Adonai yimloch le'elam va'ed. Hey, yam bye bye bim bam bye, yam bye bye bim bam, yam bye bye bim bam bye, yam bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yam bye bye bim bam. Ay 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 ay, yam bye bye bim bam. To Yisrael, Kuma Bizrat, Yisrael, Ufadei Chinumecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go Aleinu Adonai, Tzvot Shemo, Kadosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Wait a minute, everybody. Have a seat for a minute. On page 123 or 241, the good in us will win over all the wickedness, over all the wrongs we have done. We will look back at the pages of written history and be amazed, and then we will laugh and sing, and the good that is in us, children in their cradles, will have won. Our hearts bear with certainty that there is a day and an hour and a mountain called Zion, and that all of the sufferings will gather there and become song, ringing out into every corner of the earth from end to end, and the nations will hear it, and like the caravans in the desert will, all to that morning, throng. And now, please rise for the tefillah on page 124 or 242.
Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi yagita hilatecha.
Wait a minute. You can stay there. But on page 125 or 243, at the bottom of the page is something that a prayer that I really like a lot. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, and rebuild a weakened will. Now, page 126, 128, 130. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chaste Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vizrat Sarah.
128.
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Akol atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechaye Hakol Berachamim Rabim. So make no flim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'al gevurot, umido melach. Melech me'mitu mechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata l'chayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol.
130.
Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam Keshem shemakdashim oto bishmei marom kakatuv al yad neviecha v'charazeh el zeh ve'amar kadosh 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 Adonai tzevaot melo Kol haaretz kevodo Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Ma'adir Shemecha Bechol haaretz Baruch kevod Adonai Mimkomo Echadu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, V'hu Yashmienu, Berachamav Le'nei Kol Chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Yitzion, ledor vador, Hallelujah, ledor vador Or nagid gad alecha, unetzach nitzachim kedushtecha nakadish, v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh.
To all generations we will declare your greatness, and for all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Joan and Jean, would you guys come up here, please?
Joan.
Haven't seen you for a while, so I figured to put you to work. Jewish Guild, that's it. Okay, we're going to be on page 139 or 257, and you guys will do the Hebrew, but you guys can alternate what you do. Bring it to the microphone.
For expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations.
Modim anach nulach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons.
Modim anach nulach.
For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim anach nulach.
For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression.
Modim anach nulach.
For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared.
Modim anach nulach.
For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom.
Modim anach nulach.
For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim anach nulach.
We pray that may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds.
Blessed are you,
Blessed are
Adonai.
you,
Your name is
Adonai,
goodness.
goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha ulecha na'eh lohodot.
And now page 140, we'll sing Sim Shalom, 140 or 258.
Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha, barcheinu yotreinu kulanu ke'echad, be'or panecha. Ki v'or panecha natalanu, Adonai Eloheinu. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha.
Let's take a few minutes of quiet time for our own prayers from this prayer book or from your heart. And now, before we actually get to the Torah service, I'd like you to turn to page 33. Page 33 or 151. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And now if you'll turn to page 244 for the beginning of the Torah service. 244 is also page 362.
Ein kemocha ve'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, leolam vaed, Adonai oz le'amo yitem, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom.
Please rise.
Av harachamim Eitiva vernon et Sion Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Levad batachnu Melech el Ram v'nisa Adon olamim Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Udavar Adonai Merushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadlu Adonai iti Uneromema Shemo Yachdav Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagevura V'Hatiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Kicho Bashamayim Uvaretz Kicho Bashamayim Uvaretz Lecha Adonai HaMamlecha Yamid Naseh Lecho Lerosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'Hishtachavu Lehar Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtakavu l'har kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
Okay.
I got it. Okay, we're on Korach. Yep, Numbers. We're going to be reading, Michael's going to be reading from 16:1 to 4. There will be two aliyot. And the first, of course, is anybody observing a yard site. Yamod Harishon.
Hana Barucho Bat Hadassah. Oh, I'm going to have a solo here with my croaky voice this morning. Ugh. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Keat ben Levi va Datan va Aviram b'nei Eliab ve'on ben Pelet b'nei Reuven. Vaya chumu lifnei Moshe va anashim mibnei Yisrael chamashim u matayim v'nes'e eda keri'eh Moed on Shem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam netzad b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. I'm here for Yehudit Landau. She's been my friend for a while. She took, her heart stopped on Sunday finally. And I just, right now she's in Israel and they buried her just a few days ago with her family. And I think that she is very much with her family.
Thank you. Very good, thanks. Anybody got something to celebrate? Yamod Hasheni. Nobody else got anything to have?
Sheesh. No one cares.
Going back? It seems pretty. I should be more thankful. Names, please.
Eric Winston, Yitzhak ben Selig behema.
Yirmiyahu ben Avraham ve'Sarah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamurah. Baruch Adonai Hamurah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher barak banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikahalu al Moshe ve'al Aharon vayomru alehem Rav lachem ki chol ha'eda kulam kedoshim uvtocham Adonai Madua tit nasu al kehal Adonai. Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah Beth v'kayei olam natan b'torkeinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
I shared this in Torah study this morning, but I just returned from a blues festival in Mississippi and made the journey up to Jackson to the Civil Rights Museum, where I spent considerable time with a gentleman by the name of Hezekiah Watkins, the youngest freedom rider, for those of you who remember the Freedom Riders. At age 13, he went down to the Greyhound bus station just to see the Freedom Riders. And as a prank, his buddy pushed him through the whites-only door, and he was immediately taken by the police. And at age 13, just a few days later, was sent from the Jackson jail to Parchman Farms, which is the Mississippi State Penitentiary, and put on death row at age 13. And in our talk together, he said that at age 77, he still is suffering from the trauma he experienced as a 13-year-old. And I promised him that every week I could stand up here for Misha Barak, I would say his name. And so we will do that today as well as a congregation. Thank you.
On a happier note, I just got back from, I guess, about 2 weeks traveling through Ohio and Michigan to celebrate my granddaughter in her bat mitzvah, Molly Winston, daughter of my son Joshua and my daughter-in-law Sarah. It was just a marvelous time. We had the family all together, and Molly's the other side of the family, we're all there, and it was just a marvelous celebration.
Alan, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. while the Torah is still out, we'll do the Misha Berach prayers for those who could use our help with our prayers and so on. And that is found on page 253 or 371. So if you have someone whose name you want to add to the list, please come up. We've got a microphone over here on your right, and share the name of those people whose prayers you think we could share.
I'd like to mention Ruth and Elliot Epner, Mark Booth, Kathy Booth, Eddie Koo, and Debbie Simmons.
Thank you.
Bonnie Barron and Fern Platt Hall.
Sima Oppenheimer and David Kroll.
My wife Stephanie and my daughter Jennifer.
Judah Hurdle and his family, Mayor Olszewski, Glenn Laddick, Dee Martin, the Tulski family, and Nikki DiTilio.
Charlotte Rico and my dog Nash.
Murray Kornfeld, Hezekiah Watkins.
And I'd like to add also John Holmes, Paul Marushak, Howard Hyan, Maxine Endy, David Holub, Barbara Baranque, Susan and Dwight Marshall, David Kroll, Sandy Berlin, Eric Winston, Sandy Lynn, Dan Lynn, Mike Lynn, Zoe Kessler, Susan Zale, Sima Oppenheimer, and Sylvia Weiderspan. And on page 253, in the middle.
Mishe Beirach Avotenu Mekor Habracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Beirach Imotenu Mekor Habracha Liavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Lana, you want to give the Torah right now with the Torah out, okay? Okay, Lana Schaefer.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm always glad to give a different interpretation than what was done in Torah study, but this week I'm feeling like I missed a whole lot. I relied on more traditional sources, but I guess that's what Torah commentary is all about. The story of Korach is a dramatic unfolding of an uprising against Moses and Aaron by Korach from the house of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram from the house of Reuben, and 250 persons of the congregation of Israel. Numbers 15:3. They assembled against Moses and against Aaron and said to them, "You have much, because the congregation, all of them, are holy, and Yahweh is among them. Why do you raise yourself up over Yahweh's community?" And Moses listened, and he fell on his face. In Torah study, there was many interpretations of falling on his face. What it calls for me is that he was angry of people criticizing him, and he fell on his face that faced the congregation, that faced God, that God's face, may it shine on you. On that face he fell, and I think he was angry. Moses is again facing rebellious people of Israel for what the sages called an argument, not for the sake of heaven, and that's the traditional idea, but for the sake of power. They contrasted these arguments with those of Hillel and Shammai, who argued for the sake of heaven and for the sake of truth. Hillel was tolerant of the interpretation, in his interpretation of the laws, and Shammai was for more strict interpretation. Halacha is said to follow Hillel because Hillel listened to Shammai, the arguments against his, and he studied the other point of view. And it was said of Shammai that he was supported by more extremist factions and obtained the majority by killing or banishing the followers of Hillel. Perhaps there were still some power forces involved. Finally, there remains, though, in halacha, interpretations from Shammai as well as from Hillel. Returning to Korach, we believe that they held resentments over Moses and Aaron's leadership positions. Korach was a Levi, too, and he felt he had a right, just as well as Moses and Aaron, to hold the position of a priest, and the descendants of Reuben were entitled because they were the firstborn. And so the distinguishing argument here is that the rebels attacked the messenger and not the message. They attempted to accuse Moses of setting himself above the congregation and turning leadership into lordship. Numbers 16:13. Is it a small thing that you brought us up from the land of milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness? And you lord it over us as well. Besides, you haven't brought us to the land of flowing in milk and honey, or given us possession of field or vineyard. Will you put out those people's eyes too? This accusation turns truth backwards, inside out. It is fake news or alternative facts. Sound familiar? This is the old political device of reversing the position, that of Moses taking them out from the land flowing in milk and honey and accusing the liberation as being the source of their problems. The focus was on Moses and not on the force, on a force like Yahweh. Number 16, will you put out those people's eyes? Dramatized a battle for leadership, and these people were skillful politicians. When arguing for the sake of power, truth is not a part of it. This phenomena is important to understanding anti-Semitism. Listen to what people accuse others, and then you know what they themselves want. Jews never sought to create an empire. Those who accuse the Jews of wanting to control the world, and do accuse, actually express their own veiled desire to dominate the world. Adonai was angry, and what did he do? He split the ground for Korach and his followers to fall straight into hell, and the rest were scorched, obliterated by fire. Bam! Gone. Problem solved, at least for the short term. The dream of American politicians and the reality of others around the world. So what do we have today in the United States? The same old politics. Today, we call it deplatform. What social media refuses, someone an opportunity to make their ideas or beliefs known publicly. And we fire teachers, and we censor politicians. Turns out, this is not a long-term solution because it just makes things harder, but not impossible. There are censorship-resistant tools, platform migrations to happen and can trigger an influx of new users and radicalization. We can explore the many ways that firing teachers and politicians doesn't always silence them. But the descendants of Korach are still around, and their methods are still practiced. They didn't fall into a permanent state of death. We must learn and show our children how to analyze these kind of tactics and answer to them. Bia Jen Psaki.
Thank you, Lana. Let's put the Torah away. Let's see where we are. We're on page 252. Or 370, and Jerome, could you come up and help us? And Elisa, would you help dress the Torah, please? Okay. I think you have enough space. Do you have enough space?
Yeah. I've got to get 3 columns, though.
V'zot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biad Moshe. Al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim al shlosha devarim ha'olam omed al haTorah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim al haTorah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Hodol al eretz v'shamayim v'yaren keren v'yamo tehillah lechol chasidav livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Please be seated. On page 282 is the beginning of Aleinu, page 282 or 586, and then we'll, after we finish on page 282, we'll go to 287 or 586 and 591. Okay. Please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adonai hakol latet gedula l'yotzer bereshit shelo asanu kigoye haratzot velo samanu kemishvachot adama shelo sam chelkenu kahem וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad.
Please be seated. I'm on page 289 or 593, number 3. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades. Its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And if you are remembering someone at this time whose yahrzeit is now, this week, please come up and say their name clearly so we can help share your grief. Anybody who's remembering? Okay, we are on page 294. For the Kaddish, please rise if you are able. Yit Kedal, Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Bialma Divra Kirute, Biamrit Mahute, Bechaye Chon Uyomechon, Uvkaye Dikol Beit Israel, Ba'agala Bizman Karev Yimru Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevorach Leolam Ulamea Maya. Yit Barak Vayishtabak Vayit Ba'ar Vayit Ramam Vayit Naseh Vayit Hadar Vayit Alev Vayit Halal Shemei Dekudisha Baripu Le'elam Min Kol Berchata Visharata Tushbekata Vanechamata Damiran Bialma V'Yimru Amen Yehi Shalama Rabba Mim Shemaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Yimru Amen Ose Shalom Bimrama, Huyase Shalom, Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Yimru. Amen. We will have announcements, so if anyone has any announcements. Gordon, do you want to do this? Thank you.
First of all, thanks for readings, thanks for the musical, Tony, Michael, Wilson, and everybody else.
Lana? And Lana?
Next week, I have the honor of doing the Jewish triathlon, so hopefully you'll hear me. I will wish you a Shabbos and we'll see you outside.
Okay. Thank you, Lana, also for very interesting to our Torah. Leslie and Mary, thank you for keeping us in tune and on rhythm. Thank you, Jerome, for your strength, from strength to strength. Okay. Gordon, thank you for your Hebrew leading us. Thank you. We're outside for the Friendship Circle and Kiddush. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Bye.